Hey people, before I give you all that juicy new Degenesis lore, let me show you one of the reasons why this video took me so long to make. This is Ancients, a game I made which I'm about to release. It's a solo pen and paper game about space exploration, ancient alien societies, and their demise. You'll get this cool ship, roll a bunch of d4s, look up some tables, fill out these funky triangles, and after an hour or two, you'll have visited a bunch of planets and reconstructed their histories. So, in case you're interested in these kind of games, do consider checking out my itch.io page and give it a thumbs up or whatever you do there, and stay tuned for the actual release. And now let's go. Welcome everyone to the first episode of Season 2, and therefore the 11th of hopefully many Degenesis lore drop videos. First of all people, sorry for taking so long, and for teasing this video many times too soon, but you know how it is. Work, holidays, illnesses, surgery, Baldur's Gate 3, they all kept me from doing this video, but now it is done. We're back with new lore drops, maybe every other week, every month, maybe, I don't know, we will see. If you got any topics you'd like to see scrutinized here, please tell me in the comments. As always, I hope you're gonna like this new video, which was especially tough to make because it covers such a giant important part of the meta plot. But well, I tried my best and I hope you'll enjoy it. And by the way, thanks to all the new subscribers. And now let's go! In the decades before the catastrophic events of the Eschaton, the Recombination Group had become the leading company in the medicinal market, expanding their research into nanotechnology and cryogenics. Many of the corporation's rich customers, longing for a cure for various diseases, decided to let themselves be put into cryogenic sleep until the company had found a remedy for their illnesses. When the HIV or hive virus spread across Africa years later, it was the Recombination Group that proclaimed to have found a cure for the virus. Yet, the production of the serum took longer than expected. The reason for this delay was revealed by Recombination Group whistleblower Norman Thorne, who informed the press about a large secret project called Project Tannhäuser, which swallowed up a lot of the company's resources. While the entire world focused on the ravaging virus, the Recombination Group created a myriad of bunker facilities all over Europe. In these facilities, thousands of people would be sent into cryogenic chambers, where they could hibernate over the following centuries to be awakened after the catastrophe of the Eschaton. Generations of mercenaries guarded these bunkers, making sure that Project Tannhäuser would succeed. From a document shown in the second Justitian book Moloch, we learn that the Recombination Group, and more precisely Norman Thorne, was responsible for the creation of the HIV virus. Apparently, the virus was released by the Recombination Group to distract the public from the corporation's efforts to create Project Tannhäuser, as well as the impending apocalypse of the Eschaton. With the entire world distracted by the ravaging virus, the corporation took to preparing their takeover of the post-apocalyptic world through the means of Project Tannhäuser. Let us first take a look at the initial plan before delving into how the realities of the post-Eschaton world influenced and hindered the execution of this project. The mercenaries in the bunkers were supposed to maintain the facilities over the centuries in which Earth healed from the impacts of the asteroids. 100 years after the Eschaton, the first of the so-called cascades of cryogenically frozen individuals would awaken and step out of the bunkers and begin to establish a new rule in different parts of Europe. The frozen individuals, the so-called sleepers, had not only been equipped with nanotechnological enhancements, providing them with basically supernatural powers and abilities, but they were also provided with mimetic programming, which imprinted into their minds the precise instructions for playing their part in the project. Furthermore, they were themselves able to wield the powers of mimetic manipulation, which they were supposed to use to organize the chaotic tribes of scorched Europe. Every 100 years, another batch of sleepers, another cascade would rise from the dispensers to fill up the ranks and further establish the hegemony of Project Tannhäuser. Technologically enhanced, provided with weaponry and powers of mimetic manipulation, the people of Europe would view them as godlike beings and accept them as their rulers. Or they would be battered into submission by an army of Sumos programmed to obey the orders of Tannhäuser agents. After 1,000 years, the project would be completed with the return of the symphony's maestro himself. Jerome Gatrell would return as the ruler of all after spending a millennium on the Minerva's space orbiter in cryogenic sleep. The former Recombination Group board members all had their role to play in the planning of the project and can be viewed as Tannhäuser's architects, although we don't know the exact role of every single board member. Viktor Karmanov is confirmed to have acted as the head of fundings for the project. Christine Espensen was responsible for Project Esper, which was concerned with the creation of the space orbiters that were successfully launched only days before the Eschaton. Nathan Argyle was a researcher in the young academic field of memetics and joined the RG after initially refusing cooperation because of ethical concerns. His memetic programs should later be imprinted into the minds of the sleepers, providing them with clear orders and behavioral patterns for the time after awakening. As mentioned before, Norman Thorne was responsible for the creation of the HIV/E virus and the pandemic that ensued, causing a veil of mayhem under which Project Tannhäuser could flourish unseen. Salim Mushar was most probably responsible for the IT part of the whole project, as well as nanotechnological enhancements of the sleepers, before he, like many other former RG board members, turned against Project Tannhäuser in the last days before the Eschaton. What exactly made the former Recombination Group board members turn against the project that was supposed to make them the rulers of post-Eschaton world is not entirely clear, but it is without a doubt connected to Jerome Gatrell's betrayal and Project Free Spirit. As so often, information on the exact nature of this betrayal is scarce. Yet we do know that it is connected to the corresponders developed by Nikita Karminov. These devices apparently have the power to turn the nanotechnologically enhanced bloodstreams of the former recombination group board members entropic, resulting in their slow demise, unless they are able to acquire new nanite blood from sleepers. Project Tannhäuser had been corrupted, its makers doomed to cannibalize their own creation. This betrayal of Getrell's was also connected to another project of his, Project Free Spirit. Free Spirit will get its own video soon. For now, it will suffice to say that Project Free Spirit was somewhat of a counter-project to Project Tannhäuser, a plan B, an alternative, another choice that would determine the future of humanity. Project Free Spirit is closely connected to the city of Exalt and the Grindworks labyrinth beneath it. Its agents, the so-called Free Spirits, played an integral part in the city wars. Apart from Jerome Getrell himself and his Free Spirit project, Project Tannhäuser was attacked by another major element of opposition, the 2 to the power of 16 virus. The virus created by Tricklaw, who is also known as Salim Mushar, was not only responsible for the failure of the Paladin defense system and the destruction of the stream before the Eschaton, but it also attacked and destroyed elements of Project Tannhäuser, such as the recombination group bunkers, the so-called dispensers, and orbiters shot into space before the Eschaton. All these hindrances, all these acts of sabotage contributed to what the reality of Project Tannhäuser would become, in opposition to the original plan. Either Tricklaw malware, the 2 to the power of 16 virus, or the sheer destruction caused by the asteroids heavily damaged an unknown number of dispensers. The recombination group mercenaries were trapped, not only in brainwashed servitude, but also in the darkness of the bunkers. Darkness and deprivation took their toll on these guardians. Generation after generation grew paler, balder, sight became less important. When they finally stepped out of the dispensers, they had changed. They were no longer guardians of sleeping gods. They were palers. Over the centuries, some of the former guardians managed to break out of their subterranean prisons, while others still remained trapped, or still wait for the awakening of their sleeping masters. Still, some of the dispensers remained untouched by Tricklaw's malware, or the asteroid's impact, and opened according to plan. In the Justitian books, we find a relatively detailed description of the first phase of Project Tannhäuser. It is the year 2173. The ice barrier hasn't yet swallowed the wreckage of bygone Malmö. The dispensers crack open, awakening the first cascade. 600 elite soldiers rise from cryosleep, their mimetic conditioning functioning as if implanted yesterday. They break open the seals of the massive bunker system and step out into a hostile future. Together with their army of guardians, they initiate Phase 1 of Project Tannhäuser. Team Pollux ventures south across the salt flats of the retreating Baltic Sea to take Bunker 16 in Prague and secure the dormant 200s. They would later encounter the marauder Chernobog, about which you can hear more in my video about him. At the same time, Team Castor crosses the tectonically unstable zone of Denmark and enters the waste of northern Germany. Their mission: hide amongst the survivors, instigate the development of an agricultural society, establish trade, and locate Exalt. The mimetic order to locate and actually destroy Exalt had been programmed into the Tannhäuser sleepers by Nathan Argyle, which suggests that the former RG board members knew of the Free Spirit project and Exalt's significance before the Eschaton. Tannhäuser spotters mapped the land. Using salvaged bunker equipment, they set up a relay station and broadcast a signal toward Prague. Code Green, operation in full swing. Days later, they triangulate a hydrostatic anomaly, probably caused by a groundwater pressure burst. It's a starting point. The sleepers plant their first base camp, later known as Liqua. Then everything goes at light speed. Team Castor branches out into multiple smaller units, spreading out in all directions, scoring the ruins for signs of life, and searching for suitable settlement opportunities. Members set out for France, others for Britain, to gain access to the secret caches stored by the recombination group, and track down sleepers of the 300 cascade frozen in London. Others stay behind and focus on expanding the current area of influence. Native clans are subjugated with ease, new ideologies are implanted, and their families are relocated to Liqua to help with the growth and fortification of the enclave. Meanwhile, in the east, socio-cybernetics make first contact with an occult assembly of streamers who hide their faces underneath hoods and masks. These self-proclaimed chroniclers have collected extensive data on the region and its inhabitants and recognize the arriving agents of Project Tannhäuser as powerful remnants of the bygone age. They offer knowledge in exchange for protection, claiming that their kind is being hunted and their lives on the brink of extinction. The sleepers decide to draw a defensive line around the arcane cult, thereby gaining access to their cluster before siphoning every bite of useful intelligence from their new allies. Conclusion: Exalt is in reach, but the 100s are too late. A nameless tribe had already taken the facility and triggered the Grindworks program. There's only one option: retreat to Liqua and monitor the unfolding events. What the members of Team Castor did not know is that Jerome Gatrell had planted a free spirit mole into the first cascade. His name was Agent Diamondal, and he would later join the nameless tribe in Exalt to truly initiate Project Free Spirit. Diamondal would also play a significant role in triggering the so-called city wars. In the 25th century, roughly 400 years after the Eschaton, the so-called city wars shake the Balkan region that would later become the Protectorate. Since the city wars deserve their own video, I will keep it short here. The battles between free spirit sleepers from Exalt, and various different factions such as Tannhäuser sleepers of the region, the Anabaptists, or various marauders, lead not only to the fall of Exalt, but also weaken Tannhäuser agents of the Protectorate severely. Cities like Liqua fall into the hands of other clans and cults. Others are sacked and destroyed. The city of Mobilis is one of them. It was supposed to play an important part in the execution of Project Tannhäuser. Mobilis was one of the main operational centers of the project, established to allow swift interaction with the peoples of the Black Lung, and to teach agriculture as well as trade to these early tribes. It is unknown whether the ancient clans once residing in this territory were assimilated by the sleepers, but the fact that the cave painting tradition abruptly ended speaks in favor of this theory. Supposedly, the agents of Project Tannhäuser restored the damaged coal power plant of Mobilis to an operational level and located the neighboring anthracite deposits. Nobody else at that time would have had the knowledge necessary to do so, but with the majority of evidence destroyed, what really happened in those days remains hard to discern. However, some of the structures standing in Mobilis to this day bear the characteristics of an internment camp, their walls and corridors emblazoned with yellow recombination group logos which have almost entirely flaked off due to the extensive weathering. Much of the architecture consists of container-like buildings, some made of durable plastics, others of strange metal alloys. The chroniclers claim that such housing was once developed for off-world missions on different planets. Today, fringe scholars among the chroniclers, the cult that now controls the city, proclaim that Mobilis is the place where a new mankind was to be created. In fact, some of the interior pictographs found within the ancient housing pods visually depict humans stepping into cylindrical machines and exiting as transparent figures with visible organs and illuminated by some sort of incandescent aura. The cluster does not approve of such images being circulated. Whenever a new one is revealed, workers are tasked to cover up the depiction with tar and paint. The chroniclers also commanded scrappers to destroy the ancient glyphs with jackhammers. Totem poles, which depicted sleepers embracing the peoples of the Black Lung and ascending with them towards the heavens, were chopped down and incinerated. But one can still find relics buried under the soot or hidden in the birch forests dotting the nearby hills. Strange megaliths lie askew in the landscape, caked in dust and obscured by rotting foliage. If they are brushed clean, they reveal numerical markers, planetary constellations, passcodes, elemental formulas, and mathematical equations. The chronicler fragment Apex is obsessed with the remnants of the sleepers scattered around Mobilis. Apex scores through the folders of classified data he's been able to restore, investigating the trails left behind by the 100s. His research has uncovered interactions taking place between the Spitalians and Mobilis on at least 3 separate occasions between 2192 and 2,245. Were the doctors offering their services and knowledge to the agents of Project Tannhäuser? To what extent, and for what purpose? The pictographs found in the housing pods of Mobilis illustrate aspects of bioengineering. Apex suspects that the Spitalians were helping the sleepers create a new branch of humans adapted to the conditions of post-Eschaton Europe, and he even suspects that these bioengineering experiments could be an explanation for the mutations raging across the savage clans of southern Borca, like the phosphorites and the cockroaches. We might learn more about the origins of these clans and clan wars. As for the history of the Spitalians in Mobilis, maybe an upcoming video about Petrova will help us out. Another rock has been discovered in the vicinity of Mobilis. It is engraved with a satellite's orbital path around the Earth, displaying a 1000 surrounded by 4 concentric circles. The same symbol could also be found on the mysterious egg-shaped cartridges salvaged from the molten wreckage of the shuttle that crashed into the city of Nalpelia. Even though the information is scattered and scarce, we can assume that the Black Lung was supposed to be the operational core territory of Project Tannhäuser. Here the sleepers found the material, maybe even the genetic material they needed to bring humanity back to life after the Eschaton, as well as thousands of clues about their master's plan, the return of Jerome Gatrell, a millennium after the Eschaton. The aforementioned city of Nalpelia is also connected to an important character in the Degenesis metaplot who most probably was a Tannhäuser agent. The Mechanist is a mysterious figure mentioned first in the Newmancer's supplement. His story goes as follows. The man arrived in the Ramain region one day, coming from the north. He acted with purpose and freed ancient industrial plants from the soot that covered them and breathed new life into the machines. Steam exhausts broke through the thick crust of top sediment, while the ground trembled to the beat of subterranean bolt hammers. It didn't take long for the savages to arrive. They warmed themselves in close proximity to the fiery breath of the turbines and studied the strange man, machine-like in his own way, as he went about mending broken pipe systems, exposing new generators and dragging them from the ground with cable winches, carrying salvaged parts off into his realm of steam, oil, and fire. Day after day, more survivors crawled forth, casting their hopes onto this man who sleeplessly and implacably chain-linked the force of his labor to the next effort of will. The man never spoke. He didn't even seem to notice his observers. They understood regardless. The first few grabbed digging tools and began to imitate him. They forged scrap into gadgets, set themselves up in the tunnels and basements, and foraged the area for food and fuel. Soon after, they ignited blast furnaces, where they would roll red-hot iron into sheet metal, prefabricated components for machines that only existed within the man's head. It was long before they referred to him only as the Mechanist. He blessed Nalpelia with the designs for defense systems, helped in their construction, contributed to the fact that today the Iron Kingdom of Nalpilia is a self-sufficient pocket realm within the Protectorate. The Mechanist is viewed as a benefactor to the lost and broken in the era of the Beast. A more thorough reading of the legend might interpret his actions differently though, questioning if the construction of this vault-like industrial network and utterly complex defense system, along with the arming of legions of savages, only served the purpose of his own protection, and that his long journey from high up north, past Liqua, Mobilis, and Exalt, was in fact an escape, one which would end in finality. Whatever his true intention was, all of his machines and his assembled followers were to no avail. In the year 2203, his corpse was discovered deep in the bowels of Nalpilia. A white gash carved into his chest, the heart inside lacerated, possibly inflicted by some blade-like object. His followers didn't even have the time to recover their fallen hero. A timed security purge of the Cauldron City, installed by the Mechanist himself, flushed his corpse out with the tide. The Mechanist's followers would form their own clan after their master's demise. He became a divine figure, guiding them through the darkness ahead. They were his many hands, his acolytes, his mechans. It was also a Mechan high priest who was taken hostage by a scrapper faction called the Nine Fingers. After the city of Mobilis got sacked and destroyed during the city wars, the Nine Fingers claimed the shattered ruins of what was supposed to be one of Project Tannhäuser's main operational centers. Their Mechan hostage was the only one capable of understanding the intricacies of the coal power generator at the heart of Mobilis, the so-called Technodrome, and he helped his captors to repair it. This story might hint at the fact that the Mechan's former leader was familiar with Tannhäuser machinery and technology. But already the route he took from up north to Liqua, Mobilis, and Exalt, his superhuman skills of home improvement, and his mysterious death that might hint at a marauder being involved, kind of have Tannhäuser Sleeper written all over it. Plus, there is another character with a peculiarly similar name, confirmed to be a Tannhäuser Sleeper: the Urbanist. The Urbanist is a character from 2 short stories published in 2023 as part of the promotion campaign for the upcoming Clan Wars board game. Link in bio, baby. The 2 stories focus strongly on the character of the Urbanist, whose actual name is Agent Graves, and are to my knowledge the only examples of stories written from the point of view of a Tannhäuser Sleeper in the entire Degenesis corpus. I strongly recommend you check them out if you haven't already. The first of the 2 stories, titled Urbanist, initially focuses on Graves' desperate inner state of mind before his guardians inform him about the arrival of a delegation of an early iteration of Spitalians, 3rd generation crisis center personnel. The arrival of these Hospitalians sets the story in the 2nd century after the Eschaton, revealing that Agent Graves is most likely a 1st Cascade Sleeper, somewhere in Borca, potentially in Liqua or Mobilis. This encounter might be one of the interactions between Spitalians and Tannhäuser agents mentioned in the section about the chronicler Apex, but I could not find any final evidence for this claim. In the second story, Graves encounters an Anabaptist emissary and is painfully made aware of the limitations of his mimetic powers of manipulation when confronted with Anabaptist dogmatism. It seems to be Graves' goal to form a coalition with the Anabaptists against the looming threat that is Exalt, yet the emissary makes it abundantly clear that he is not interested in an alliance. To underline his animosity, he presents Graves with a severed arm that once belonged to Tannhäuser sleeper, Agent Morton, a member of Team Castor, who most probably tried to infiltrate the young Anabaptist cult and perished. There is reason to believe that the short stories about ancient graves were supposed to be part of the roadmap release Mass Grave, which unfortunately never was published. It was supposed to focus on the investigation of a gruesome discovery made by Helvetic sappers. A mass grave 15 kilometers west of Mobilis. Piles of bones buried 6 feet underground and coated with radioactive filament, along with grotesquely malformed human skulls. One sediment sample retrieved by the sappers featured bone splinters fused with crystallite nanites. I might be jumping to conclusions here, but it kind of feels Six More Vodka-ish to have a character named Graves appear in a story called Mass Grave. But maybe I'm just suffering from harm's way brain worms. What definitely connects the two Clan Wars short stories of Ancient Graves to the supposed story of Mass Grave is Dead Sleepers of an early cascade located in the Black Lung. We'll find out more about the Urbanist's fate with the Clan Wars release. What we can conclude from the stories of the Urbanist and the Mechanist is that some of the sleepers of the first cascade most probably had their individual fields of expertise needed for the implementation of the first phase of Project Tannhäuser. Furthermore, we are introduced to the obstacles and utter horrors that these sleepers had to endure during this phase of reconstruction after the Eschaton. We also see that after a short period of operating successfully in northern Borca, Project Tannhäuser turned into a disaster caused by dogmatic clanners, the agents of Exalt, or marauders hungry for nanites. The other team of the first cascade, Team Pollux, also had to face the disastrous outcome of their mission, though their leader, later known as the Pious of Wrocław, did survive his encounter with the marauder Chernobog and continues to be an influential player in the metaplot of Degenesis. For more information about the Pious, do check out my Chernobog and Needle Tower disaster videos. The Pious is one of only 2 known and named Tannhäuser sleeper characters alive at the current point of the Degenesis metaplot timeline. We know that the Pious is actively working against the group of rogue chroniclers known as the Needles, who try to reach Baikonur and activate the last server. What the Needles and the Pious don't seem to know is that an activation of the last server would result in a reboot of all systems of Project Tannhäuser that were formerly corrupted by the 2 to the power of 16 virus. Project Tannhäuser would then be unstoppable. The M-Sumo army that the marauder Gusev tried to reprogram in NORAD would come to life. Dispensers would be able to be activated manually, spitting out sleepers with intact memories on command. Getrell's orchestra of final human selection would begin its symphony. Either the pietist is unaware of the consequences of the needle's success, or he does no longer want Project Tannhäuser to become the world's leading ideology. The other Tannhäuser sleeper, alive and active at the current point of the timeline, is Beryl, mentioned in the Justitian book Moloch. Beryl is a sleeper of the 600th cascade and the only survivor of his cohort. He entered the Protectorate in search of his fellow sleepers and the bright future they were supposed to build, yet he finds only pain. Beryl is attacked and almost killed by chronicler and Aspera collaborator Eliza, who injects a transmitter into his body that incapacitates the nanites in Beryl's bloodstream. Yet the sleeper manages to escape. He finds refuge at a farm run by the ascetic Goslar, whom Beryl manipulates into helping him using memetics. Amnesia ravages Beryl's consciousness. Entire areas of his brain seem to be blotted out. Dark zones that feature no entry point, but with every day that passes he captures glimpses of his past, connecting the dots. His deployment zone featured 3 separate dispensers. He studies the maps that Goslar acquired for him. Beryl's squad didn't survive the cryostasis, but what about the other 2 bunkers? If his calculations are correct, they are located in the Stukov Desert, somewhere close to the ice barrier. If this damn wound would just heal in time, he could travel there by himself and locate the other agents of Project Tannhäuser. And together, they'd be able to press the reset button and begin the plan anew. In conclusion, we can say that Project Tannhäuser was a megalomaniacal plan for restarting human civilization after the Eschaton. A plan that encompassed the atrocity of releasing the Hive virus, using mind control and memetic manipulation, as well as brute force to establish a ruling ideology. This plan failed in its initial iteration, but still represents a dormant threat for everyone. A threat that could become very real in case the Needles succeed in their plan. But Project Tannhäuser is only one side of the coin that is Jerome Getrell's philosophy, the other side being Project Free Spirit, which we will take a look at in my next video. Whew, everyone. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully I did justice to this very, very, very big topic of the Degenesis metaplot. In case I forgot anything, please shout at me in the comments about how stupid I am, and just kidding, you're all being very, very nice. But if I made a mistake, please tell me, because that's what we are striving for here. Being right about Degenesis. And please do check out the Degenesis Discord, degenesis.com, the Clan Wars page. Everything is in the description. And please also check out my little game Ancients on itch. And now, people, have a great one.